In this video, I'm going to show you the 5 best free saxophone VST plugins. Number 1, Monster Sax. I'm going to be honest, out of any of these 5, in my opinion, this is the best one. I've done an entire video about this plugin as there's a lot to it. So in this video, I'm going to kind of scrape the surface of each one of these plugins, but to play it, right? Great sound quality and that nice little vibratic element at the end. But in addition, you can see right here, I have key switches. This allows you to do so many other aspects of a saxophone, not just playing it. And for me, I am a saxophone player as well. And I love that they have all these different elements. So we have legato right now. But then let's say if I go to slur, right? I also have things like short notes. More staccato type feel, but more shorter, not fully staccato, but a little shorter, right? Then you have things like bending notes. Then we have things like slurring. Let me reset this. Right, like I showed you. Things like minor trills. You know what's funny, what this reminds me of, very specific, is the Nightmares theme in Zelda Link's Awakening. It's probably like a few people that know what I'm talking about, but that's like the exact sound design on that main theme. But going to staccato now. Right, then we have a major trill going up here. And then lastly, but definitely not least, we have growl. Right? And what's amazing about this plugin is there's so much to it. As you can see, you are key switching via MIDI, which I'm not going to lie, sometimes I like that, sometimes I don't, I have to be honest. But you can do all these different key switches to have all these different elements of a saxophone and make a full-on saxophone melody with all the amazing elements and parts of playing a saxophone. Number 2 is Wind and Sax by Slap Sound. Phenomenal free VST plugin maker. And you can see right here, there's a combination of wind instruments, brass instruments, and of course, saxophone. So if I play, like say the main one, the brass big band. And I will say, when it comes to any Rompler style plugin like this one, some of the presets or selections I think are better than others, right? But we have all these saxophone ones right here, so like the alto, for example. Right? Great sound quality. Got the baritone. I'm not gonna lie, the upper register, not the best, especially when it comes to like a Barry sax. It's all about that low end. And I gotta say, very, very specific, this is my favorite Barry sax sound from a free VST plugin, going all the way down. Very, very accurate, right? I mean, I feel like we're talking about something ultra specific, which is a free Barry sax VST plugin, right? Or preset. And any of my sax players know on a typical saxophone, the lowest note you can hit is a B flat. But on the Barry specifically, there's an extra button you press. I couldn't think of the right word. A key you press. Couldn't think of the right word. That allows you to go 1/2 step lower to that low A. Love the Barry sax. Then we're going to go to just saxes in general. Been almost of like a cinematic feel on this one. I'm not going to lie. A bit Casio keyboardish. I'm not the biggest fan of this one particular sound. I'm not going to lie. Almost sounds more like a synth to me. Right? Almost even a bit accordion sounding. There's also no vibratic element on it compared to the other ones. Like, right? But hey, I do kind of like, especially in the lower register. Can be kind of used as like a cool, almost bass type thing if I wanted to. Then we have soprano, of course. Phenomenal sound quality. last, but definitely not least, what is considered the jazz staple, tenor. Not gonna lie, just to be honest, I think the tenor, besides the sax's like set, I feel like the tenor is probably my least favorite sound. I think the soprano, bari, and alto are excellent on this plugin. The tenor, not as much. Number 3 is the tenor saxophone VST Plugins. I hope I'm pronouncing their name correctly, so I apologize if I butchered it a bit. This is a element very similar to Contact. We have to download a decent sampler and then download the tenor saxophone part in addition to it, right? Very similar to, like, say, Contact Player or Contact in general. We download Contact as a standalone VST or plugin, and then you download the instruments separately. So I'm going to play this. Now this one, depending on what you want, I kind of like the aspect that on some saxophone VST plugins, when you play the note, it's a line, and then it gets a little vibratic near the end. This one doesn't do that, but the sound quality is still phenomenal, so it depends on what you want. In addition, I have a couple cool things about this plugin that are very unique. One, you can see right here, I have these elements, right? So I'm just going to kind of play a note and then go up and down to show you like the full-on dry wetness. Right, not as much. Not as much, but when it comes to the mics, right, it's very subtle. Right? If I can... Tone seems to be, honestly, seems more like a filter, but as you can see with these, not as much. I'm not gonna lie, when I've messed around with them, not bad, but just not as much. The big thing though with this plugin I like is this blues section. This is almost like saxophone Foley, if that makes sense. That's what's really cool. So if I go down here, you can hear like the pad clicking against the saxophone, like. Right, all that kind of saxophone Foley of hitting the keys and the notes, the pads hitting the actual sax itself. That's really cool because, like, say you want maybe that being played along with the saxophone itself. Like, you almost create 2 MIDI lines, one with the notes itself, and one with just like the every time it's playing, or find like a good one. Maybe something like that on some notes, like take like the D on the saxophone, which like a lot of keys at once. Really cool that this one has great tenor saxophone sound quality, along with a very unique saxophone Foley section. Number 4, DSK saxophones. This one was kind of the first semi-realistic free saxophone plugin, in my opinion, that kind of got released. There's 2 options, soprano and tenor. I'm not gonna lie, which I guess is kind of like a blessing in disguise. The tenor one does not sound good. For some reason, every time I've been trying to pull it up, my DAW crashes, Ableton crashes. I'm not sure why. This plugin's pretty old as well, I'm going to be honest. But in my opinion, the soprano sax is by far the better sounding saxophone between the soprano and tenor. I'm not a fan of the tenor sound at all, so unfortunately I can't play it because Ableton keeps crashing, but at least can play the soprano one, which sounds like this. Great soprano sound sax, great sound when it comes to the soprano sax. Bit of a tongue twister. We have a few different options here, ADSR, velocity curve, and level, and of course reverb. I feel like especially when it comes to a soprano specifically, I do like some reverb to give it that very like ambient, I don't know, like big room feel, especially when it comes to the soprano specifically, so. Right, turn this up actually even more. And last, but unfortunately least, I have to be honest, number 5 is the Iowa Sax Plugins. Now, there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can get the VSTs or use it within Contact. I actually find this more customizable settings within Kontakt, so that's what I'm going to use here, or I'm using being more specific Kontakt player. This, as far as I know, was I think the first ever free sax plugin. I'm pretty sure. And so the sound quality, I'm not going to lie, not the best. Maybe with some reverb, you know, I don't know. Do I have... Yeah, so this is going to be kind of... These settings I don't think really affect the instrument, so... Let me turn it up a little bit more, too. I feel like this one's kind of quiet. You know what? Just throw the utility on here. No, I definitely don't want vinyl distortion. There we go. Right? Not bad per se, but if I had to be honest, I feel like I like some of the other plugins a lot better. However, and I've said this before in a lot of other videos, I've used plugins where the sound quality maybe isn't pristine, but I've done it purposely because I like the way it sounds within the mix or with what I'm going for. If I really want almost like sometimes a very simplistic feel. Now, there are 4 different ones when it comes to this. We have Alto, and you can see right here as I'm pulling these up. We're now going to go to then the sax duet. Make sure this doesn't. All right. So you can see this almost like 2 saxes playing at once. And then lastly, we have the soprano sax. Now, I will say for some reason, the Iowa solo sax, you need actual Kontakt. Kontakt player doesn't work with it. Kind of weird. I'm not sure why that 3 out of those 4 work with Kontakt player, but that one doesn't. I'm not sure why. Again, these plugins are very old. The Iowa set's very old, but... And there it is. Those are the 5 best free saxophone plugins I found after actually some years of research, especially being a saxophone player. Now, one thing I want to say on this video, which you may have noticed, like I said, you've already looked in the description, unfortunately, I cannot post links to these plugins. I've had an issue with YouTube for a long time. I've done videos about this where, for whatever reason, if I post a link to a free plugin that's actually free and there's no issues, YouTube thinks I'm trying to promote piracy or something along those lines. Unfortunately, I wish YouTube could be a lot better with this, but there's amazing things about YouTube. There's a lot of frustrating things about YouTube. Nonetheless, though, the best part about this is these are all completely free.